Geto, huh? I'll tell you guys right now, I don't like it. I do not like that at all, actually. Dude, I loved Geto as a character. Loved him. Thought he was a great, compelling villain. And now that I know that this isn't him, I don't give a fuck, frankly. I don't care, to be honest, anymore. I don't like that decision at all, actually. I'm sure we'll get more context to it, but I'm not a fan of that. I would have much rather have had it actually been Geto, guys. That shit. Gojo really did kill him in the movie, huh? That's crazy. That makes that scene so much sadder now, when you really think about it. Because that's the actual last time they talked with each other. That's crazy. I know everyone's going to be talking about Gojo this episode, but for me, the Geto thing, I don't like it. Let's just get straight into it and talk about Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, Episode 9 today, because it's a wild one. So our episode begins with our cast of characters being asked one simple question. What do you think of Satoru Gojo? Yuji says he's a teacher, and without him, I would have been executed by now. Megumi says technically, he's my benefactor. Technically. Nobara says, I don't even know him all that well, honestly. But there's one thing I can say for certain. As we see a lot of people agree, he's an idiot. Nanami says he's flippant, egotistical. But regardless of how you feel about him, everyone agrees on one thing. He's the strongest. A literal monster in human skin, essentially. And it's time for us to understand exactly why. As we see Gojo point at Nanami and say, hey there, weed. This is the third time we've met, right? And you still underestimate the hell out of me. I'll kill you first. So come on. Bring it on. As this man Gojo literally walks up to them right here. And as they try to attack him, he grabs Jugo's arm and rips it clean off. As he sends Hanami flying with a kick. As Hanami says, he's just going after Jugo. Was that taunt earlier just a misdirection? He's also stopped using his limitless technique. As we see, he's just throwing Jugo around. He's given up on adjusting his technique and started focusing on compact attacks using cursed energy manipulation in this space that's filling up with humans. But that's no big deal, because I can just use my curse technique. As Hanami tries to do just that, but it's just what Gojo wanted. As Jugo screams, don't dismiss domain amplification, Hanami! But it's far too late as Gojo hops on his head and says, this is where you're weak, right? And literally rips Hanami's horns out of his head here. As he says, I knew it. You can't use domain amplification and your innate technique at the same time. As Jugo explains that the only reason I'm safe now is because I use domain amplification to protect myself. Hanami should have done that as well. As he says, Satoru Gojo, what is there that you're not capable of? Literally echoing the entire voice of the audience right here. What the fuck can Gojo not do, frankly? As we see Chozo has jumped into the fray as well. As Gojo's like, I bet he's one of the incarnated death painting wounds. He's not a cursed spirit. He's annoying, but he comes later. And as Jugo and Hanami attack Gojo together, the lights suddenly shut out and we hear, are you sure about this? The more you try to neutralize my technique with your domain amplification, the stronger I have to maintain my technique. And I don't think this asparagus has the energy left to withstand that. Do you? And it's here Gojo puts all his cursed energy towards Hanami, throwing him into the wall and smashing him. Jugo tries to make him stop by using humans as hostages, but Gojo doesn't give a fuck right here. As he quite literally explodes Hanami on the wall right here. And even Jugo is shocked. As Gojo says, "You're next." But before we get back into that, let's really break down exactly what the curse's plan is right here. As we hear, the prison realm is a living barrier. It's what Genshin was reduced to. There's nothing that cannot be sealed in the prison realm. As Jugo asks, then of course there's conditions to sealing something in it, right? As Geto says, 1 minute. Once the prison realm's gate is open, we'll have to keep Gojo in its effective sealing range of 4 meters for 1 whole minute. And I do think it's kind of funny that they all play around their game before Jugo pieces it together and says, "I'll burn you to death. You didn't join forces with us to push that impossible task on us, did you? Even the lives of several thousand humans wouldn't be enough to warrant fighting that thing under those conditions." As Geto tells him, "What's wrong, Jugo? You look a little heated. You know, even though we do need a minute, we'll be fine." As we see, it just starts becoming like a horror movie here. Jugo's running for his life and Gojo's just walking slowly chasing after him. Jugo's throwing humans at Gojo here to block himself. As he says, "I gotta use the humans as cover and focus on hit and run tactics." As he screams, "Chozo, if you're not gonna help, I'll kill you myself." As we see, he's been hiding amongst the humans right here. As he shoots through people's heads to try to get to Gojo, but of course it's stopped. As Gojo says, "Not too close, but not too far. That's the best they can do." As he says, "The people who can't see cursed spirits have started avoiding me. If their numbers keep declining and space opens up, I can catch Volcano Head. I've revealed my goal of beating them to a pulp with close combat, and it'll be an issue if it keeps its distance and coordinates that death painting to unleash a big attack through the crowd." As Gojo decides, "I'm sorry, but I can't save everyone. So I promise you all, I will exorcise them." And it's here, watching from the sidelines, we see Geto say, "It's not time just yet. Gojo's still completely composed. We need him much more on edge." And it's here as we transition to our boy Yuji. He goes and talks with that one woman we saw at the end of last week's episode. As she tells him, "Everyone got turned into monsters and got on the train. I was told I wasn't needed because the train was full." And after saying that, we see she becomes transfigured as well and dies. But it's here Yuji suddenly pieces together what she says as he says, "Wait, everyone got on the train?" As he realizes Gojo's in trouble. And it's here as we transition back to Gojo. We see even he's surprised by the sudden appearance of a train here. As Jugo says, "It's here." And naturally, all the regular people here are stoked that the train's here so they can go home as they try to rush onto it. But it's here. All hell breaks loose. As the doors open and countless cursed spirits come pouring out, attacking all the people here. And finally, we see everyone start to panic here. As our situation gets from bad to worse, as Mahito is here now too. And it's here as Mahito tries to attack Gojo, he says, "I really can't hit you, huh?" As Gojo recognizes him as the one that Yuji and Nanami talked about before. As Mahito tells him, "Let me tell you one of the gross things about humans. There's too many of them." As we just see people come falling from the sky here into the tunnel. As Gojo says, "Shit, there's people above us as well." And it's here as Mahito and Chozo both use their techniques at once. People die. It becomes a bloodbath. As we see everyone at once attacking Gojo, using the people as cover and stressing him out. And this scene right here is my favorite in the whole episode. I love how they handle it as we hear, Satoru Gojo isn't like Yuji Itadori. I know he's capable of cold logic. He probably believes that some degree of sacrifice is needed to make certain he exercises us. But with both the death count and the number of living people rising, the scales determining what degree is acceptable can no longer function. Meaning that there's too many people here for him to just brush aside and say, oh, it's a casualty. There's a lot of people here. As Jugo says, what he needs to do right now is use his infinity void to kill us and all the people here, so he can save the people outside of his domain. But you're incapable of doing that, Gojo. Because the sacrifices you're willing to accept are people killed by cursed spirits, not people killed by Satoru Gojo. Now think, Gojo. Focus your mind. But it's here Gojo shocks them to their cores as he says domain expansion, infinite void. As he sucks everything into his domain, spirits, people, everything. He does not care. And with everything in his void, Gojo goes absolutely stupid here. It's past the point of absurdity to Gojo's a fucking god. As we hear, it was a desperate gamble on a domain expansion lasting 0.2 of a second. 0.2 of a second was the limit Gojo set purely on instinct. It was the amount of time he believed non-sorcerers could withstand being in infinite void without becoming vegetables or facing after effects. During that 0.2 of a second, roughly half a year's worth of information flowed into the brains of the non-sorcerers and transfigured humans present, rendering every one of them unconscious while still standing upright. All the people here were able to go back to society 2 months later. That's how limited his void was. And it still took them 2 months to get back to society. Fuck. Of course, that meant the special grade cursed spirits could reawaken at any moment. So with their potential counterattack in mind, Gojo narrowed his focus on the transfigured humans alone. And when everything's said and done, we just hear, after dismissing his domain, the strongest sorcerer of the modern age slaughtered all of the roughly 1,000 transfigured humans unleashed here in 299 seconds. In just under 5 minutes, Gojo killed everyone. Everyone. People are unconscious while they're standing. Transfigured humans are sprayed out everywhere. It's pure carnage. But it took him long enough for their plan to be in motion. As Geto says, prison realm, gate open. And it's here, it's lights out for Gojo. As he's shocked to his core when Geto approaches him. As he says, is this a fake? A transformation technique? No. It's really him. And as all their history together comes barreling into his mind, he's captured right here. As Geto says, you shouldn't lose yourself in thought in the midst of battle, Satoru. As Gojo says, I don't sense any cursed energy, and I can't get my body to move either. So this is checkmate, huh? But it's here, despite everything that his eyes see, Gojo still says, who the hell are you? As he's told, I'm Suguru Geto. Don't you remember your best friend? As Gojo says, that body, that cursed energy, all the information provided by these eyes is telling me that you're Geto. But my soul is rejecting all of that. So answer me, who the hell are you? And it's here as he starts pulling the string off his head, he says, creepy. As he takes his own head off and says, "How could you tell?" As it's confirmed that this is not Geto. As this guy says, "This is my technique, you see. I can pass from one body to another by replacing its brain with myself. Of course, I'm also able to use the technique etched into that body I inhabit. I really wanted this man's curse manipulation and this situation too." As he laughs at Gojo and says, "So you didn't have Shoko handle the disposal of Geto's body that day, did you? That was an odd time for you to show some consideration. But thanks to that, I was able to obtain this body with ease." As he tells Gojo, "Oh, you needn't worry. I'll release your seal eventually. In 100, no, maybe 1,000 years from now? You're just too damn strong, and you're in the way of my plans." As Gojo just laughs and says, "Have you forgotten who was in that beat the crap out of that body before I killed him? Who that was?" As this man says, "Yuta Okotsuku, huh? I just don't see as much appeal in that boy as you do, Gojo." As he says, "Copying techniques without any conditions and a bottomless well of cursed energy. Both of those were just effects attained by binding the soul of his most beloved with a pact. Sorry to say this, but Yuta Okotsu can never replace you. Good night, Satoru Gojo. We'll meet again in the new world." And as we transition to our final scene of the episode, we see Yuji suddenly get a surprise call from Mekamaru. As he says, "There's no time. Listen and understand the first time." As he tells him, Satoru Gojo has been sealed. And with that, our episode ends. This was an absolutely insane episode today, guys. Not only did Gojo get sealed, we apparently get the reappearance of Yuta again, which I'm super excited about. But the big elephant in the room that I told you guys about is that this has not been Geto the entire time in the show. And I gotta be honest, I told you guys, I don't like that. I think that kind of undermines him a bit. Because this whole time we're under the assumption that it's him doing all this. And when we get the flashback that we got at the beginning of this season, it really builds him up even more. So the fact that we see that it's not him at the end of all this is kind of disappointing to me. I don't like that. I don't like this bait and switch that they just kind of did with us. Maybe I'm alone in that, but I don't like that, personally. But if you feel differently, or if you feel the same, let me know in the comments, because I would love to hear your opinion on this, regardless of how I feel. Pretty damn crazy episode today. So, until next time, guys, I hope you all have a great day, week, month, and year. And until then, deuces, have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys next time. Deuces.